Today we're talking about the gifts and the traps of identity, or as I like to call it, the beauty and the blind spots of who we believe ourselves to be. Because identity really is either the thing that can expand us or the very thing that quietly holds us back. So before we get started, I want to just give us a working definition of identity so we can all be on the same page as we take in this information. And so identity is made up of who we believe ourselves to be. Let me say that again. Our identity is made up of who we believe ourselves to be. So we may describe our identity based on the roles that we play, such as being a wife or a mother, or maybe based on our occupations, such as being I'm a nurse, I'm a therapist or professor. And we also sometimes use it to describe our traits or things about us. So we may identify as a highly sensitive person, or maybe identify as somebody who is organized or not organized. So there's a lot of different words and ways that we use to define or describe our identity, where it really is just simply what we believe about ourselves. And so why is this important? Right. So, if we're thinking about wanting to change something about ourselves, whether that's a habit, whether we're working on a specific goal for ourselves, maybe you're working on losing weight or eating healthier or more mindfully. Maybe it's more related to your business or your career, such as like stepping into a leadership role. And so, it's important that we look, and check in on our identity and see how that's impacting or affecting us. Because oftentimes, what I've noticed is this is the part um, that gets missed, right? And so we may be really focused on our strategy or the actions that we need to be taking. So maybe you have a diet plan or a workout plan that you're trying to uh, implement into your life, but you're noticing that you're not able to stick to it, or it's feeling really hard, or for whatever reason, things aren't going the way that you want them to. And so this is really where we need to check in with our identity. So while it may seem a little abstract, or you may be asking, how does this actually impact anything if these are just, ways that I describe myself. But really, what we want to know, and what I've seen in my experience personally and professionally, is this is really at the foundation of being able to make lasting change, and is often the missing link on why people are not successful at their goals or making the change that they desire in their lives. So let me just go a little further talking about identity and really what that is otherwise. So, our identity is not only made up of the actions, the physical actions and things that we're doing, it's also based on the unseen, what we could also call energetics, which is what's operating outside of our conscious awareness, or kind of under the surface. So this includes things like our thoughts, our beliefs, our internal dialogue in our mind, how we talk to ourselves, the attitude that we have about ourselves. Again, what we're believing about ourselves. This is really at the root of everything we do or don't do. And so when shifting and expanding into a new identity, we're not just talking about shaping or changing our habits. It's really about shifting our energy, our choices. This is going to impact our relationships and even what we allow into our lives. And so, this is really the difference between overgiving or burning out and how we can move into stepping into feminine leadership, where we can thrive in both our marriage and our work and really be authentic in the work that we're bringing to the world. And so let's dive in and really explore the gifts and the traps and the things that might be holding us back from becoming that expansive, radiant woman that we want to be, that really feels aligned and in tune with her purpose. So, number one is really recognizing identity as the gift, right? And so, this is the how identity can serve as our anchor and our activator, right? And so, um, being able to identify in certain ways is very much a positive thing. It can give us stability, a sense of belonging, and really that direction, right? It helps us show up in the world with confidence and clarity, right? Determine kind of our position, right? What we're doing, right? So thinking about a role, right? If we have a role as a teacher, right, that's going to give some direction as you're teaching, your class, whoever that might be. And so just recognizing how the reason why we like to identify is because it gives some type of sense of meaning as well. And so, um, right, it kind of activates us into really showing up and playing that role or doing the thing that we need to do within that identity, right? Whether it's at work or at home. It can also be our activator. And so when we're wanting to step into something new or we're really trying something new we haven't done before, right, that can really activate the new way that we're trying, like who we're trying to become, that new version of ourselves. A shift that we could make, say, if we are working on taking care of ourselves better. Again, maybe we have that goal of uh, losing weight or becoming more fit, right? And so we might shift from, right, the identity of somebody that, well, I try to take good care of myself to another identity, which is I'm a woman who really honors and respects her body, and I take care of myself accordingly. So there's a little bit of difference in how we might be viewing that based on what we're thinking about ourselves, specifically in relation to the thing that we're trying to do, right? Who that is that we're trying to become. And so this is a way that we can use our identity to help us, right? And so whether that's really kind of giving us the stability in something we're doing, or we're moving into something new that feels a little less familiar and activate us into that new identity, right? So number two, I want to talk about how identity becomes a trap, right? How it is that blind spot that can keep us stuck. So how this happens is when we actually over identify. So we're maybe zoomed in so much to that specific identity that we really kind of get trapped in these old labels, roles, or stories that we have created about ourselves, right? So a common one, right? So we might hear, or maybe we've said it ourselves, like, I'm such a selfless person. And so sometimes, right, at least from my experience, this was something that was viewed, we thought we were viewing it as something positive of like, right, that we care about other people or that we want to be helpful to other people. Where if we really are looking at what we're saying, like I'm selfless, that is an identity rooted in self-sacrifice. That is an identity rooted in depletion of self because there's no room or space for self. And so it's saying I'm helping others, but really at my own expense. And so this is a really common one I see for a lot of these big-hearted women who really they are helpful to other people. They really enjoy supporting other people in whatever role that might be that they're playing, but they're not really recognizing that this is a trap and that this is why it is becoming so difficult to tend to your own needs, right? To actually give some of that support and that love that you freely give to others to ourselves, right? To yourself. And so this is a really common trap. Another one that I see very commonly is that I'm a perfectionist, or even better, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Still, this is an identity that I'm still in that, right? So I'm still identifying that that's part of who I am. And so certainly there's going to be a process if that's something we're working on. Um, before we feel that we're not that identity. But the more that we use that language and we continue to say, this is who I am, it is tying it to our, not only it's reaffirming those thoughts and beliefs that we have about ourselves, that is directly related to the emotions and the behaviors that are coming out of that. Right. And so if that's what we're walking around saying, even though we are saying we're actively practicing on not doing that, those words tie us to that identity, right? Which we know is really rooted in a performance and not really allowing ourselves to make any mistakes or just learn, as we go. And so it's really, really important to recognize the language that we're using, whether that's in that internal dialogue in our mind or the things that we're actually saying out loud to ourselves or to others that is keeping us in that same identity. This is why it can become again difficult, or why you might notice when you're making changes that are able to do that for the first little bit and then you find yourself reverting back to the old ways, is you're still in that identity that is the old way of doing it, right? And so in addition to doing the actions, we've got to look at our identity and all of those energetics of what's behind our actions, to help us really become that next version, become that person who does, honor and respect their body, or that person who does see themselves as a leader versus, somebody who has to hold it all together and they don't need any help, which is where that creates that exhaustion or disconnection. Um, so, what I want to talk about in number three is how to um, what we want to do with that, right? And so, how do we go from having that be a trap and helping us um, activate us into that new identity and then anchor us into it, right? Keep us stable as we are working on these new goals or habits that were, in our lives. And so, number three is really zooming out to be able to expand. So it's also recognizing that our identity is ever evolving and it's multidimensional. And so, right, our identity is not fixed, it's something that can change. And so, in one of my other videos, the 12 reasons for changing habits, I talked about growth mindset. And honestly, a lot of the women that I work with have a growth mindset. And all that really means, I'm saying, is right, they want to learn, they want to grow and change. And that's something that they resonate with, right? Where what they're missing um, is the identity piece, is recognizing that that's also something that's going to change and evolve over time. And it's also something that is not just one thing, right? It's that multidimensional and that it is, right, we can have multiple identities, right? We have different ways of describing ourselves. And the reason why that's important is so that we're not boxing ourselves in. So we're not feeling like, well, I'm just this one thing. And I see this actually a lot in the highly sensitive community, in that, well, I'm highly sensitive, so I can't do this. And so we've zoomed so far into that identity, we're not really able to harness the gifts out of that. And instead, it's becoming a trap for us that's not allowing ourselves to grow and evolve. That's creating limitation for ourselves of what we're able to do. And I use that example because that often a lot of the women that I work with identify with. That's something I'm, one of the identifiers myself, and have been through my own process to make sure that that is not something that's limiting me. And I'm able to actually then kind of get into the gifts of it and utilize those in a positive way. Right. And so, how we can do this, we might ask, uh, who am I becoming? And does this identity or this way that I'm describing myself still serve me? Or is that aligned with who I'm becoming, right? That thing that I'm saying that I want in my life. And so this is how we could go, transition from, oh, I'm just I love to help other people and I put everybody else first, to the identity that I'm a feminine leader who creates impact from overflow, right? So I'm still having the impact where I am not forgetting myself in that, right? That first identity, there's no room for you. That's that selfless version, right? And so this is why this is so important. And this is what I teach inside of my programs using my Rise and Radiance framework, so that you can start not only having the impact for other people that you really desire in your heart, you can, um, take care of yourself. You can actually enjoy your life and thrive as well. And you're creating that impact and helping others from that place, not from a place of, not able to take care of myself. Because let's be honest, who really wants, would you want to hire somebody to work with you and help you if they're not able to do these things on their own, right? Or if they're sacrificing themselves to help you, how is that actually going to teach you how to take care of yourself and help yourself, right? It's not. And so this is why this is so important, and essentially why I've created this framework around it. And so, if this is something that you've been experiencing or something that you feel like you are needing to work with, definitely go back through and see, check in with yourself of what describers you're using, what words you're using around this. And if you really want to go deeper on this and you're wanting support around this, I would love to invite you to my upcoming live masterclass that I'm having, where I'm going to be going a little deeper into my Rise and Radiance framework, really kind of giving you an outline of how you can start incorporating this work into the things that you're doing specifically in your life, and how you can start making that transition from the old way that you're viewing yourself into this newer way that's going to help allow you to reach your goals, right? To really step into your next leadership role or whatever it might be. And so I'm hosting this live masterclass Friday, October the 3rd. I will definitely link um, all the details in the description box. And if you really enjoyed, this information, if you found it helpful, please give this video a like. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can stay tuned for all my upcoming videos. And so I would love to have you in this community, and I would love to have you join me at the event that I have coming up in a few weeks. So definitely check it out below, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one.